What's up, Beaners? Day 32. All right. We got all these bolted up. Keith with Infamous actually reached out and he's gonna build me a new set of upper control arms. I gave him the measurements that I ended up with. So that's pretty cool. I mean, the customer service is pretty cool. So he's gonna build me a new set of arms. I'm gonna rock these for now until I get those new ones. Today, let's get the truck up in the lift. Let's get it up there and we'll press in the U-joints for the drive shafts, and then we'll make sure everything fits good. Fingers crossed. Everything should fit good since the 480 didn't have the slip joint or the yoke. So I'm hoping that the space that we gained by pushing the motor all the way forward will give us enough space to put everything together and keep the stock drive line. That way I don't have to get any custom drive shafts or anything. I can just pop everything back in. And like I said, these are 1410. The one for the slip yoke is a 1410, but everything on the drive shafts is 1350. So what we'll do, I have those conversion U-joints, we'll press those on, and hopefully everything bolts back together. So let's give that a try, and we'll see where we end up. All right, fellas. This spacer came with Matthew's Ride Tech coilover system, because he's got a badass Ride Tech coilover system on that truck. Anyway, his doesn't have a two-piece drive shaft, so they sent him a spacer anyway, so I appreciate your donation, Matthew. But we got the yoke on. Now, I left my tip measure. It's like 2.5 inches sticking out of the yoke. This is a 6.5 inch yoke. Now, if this was a single piece drive shaft, I'd be worried about it. But honestly, with this being a two-piece drive shaft, I'm not super worried about it. I know they make a yoke that's like 8 inches. I think I'll order one and eventually swap it out if this ever fails, which I really don't think it will. It's not gonna be a burnout machine or anything, it's just driving. But that one's on. I'm gonna get the other drive shaft, pop the other U-joint on it, and then we'll bolt it up to that. And I think we'll be good on that end. So, yeah. Other than that, I mean, that's the only issue. It's just that the slip yoke doesn't go all the way in, and I really don't want to move the engine back because the AC compressor sits where I want it to. Everything else fits good. We'll leave it there. If we start having trouble with it or any kind of vibrations, which it doesn't. It's got about 3.5 inches on the output shaft, and about, I don't know, 2.5 inches here. So I'm not worried about it. I think it'll be fine. Yeah, let's get the other drive shaft on and I'll get back with you guys. All right. We got this in. It's in. It's in like Flynn. When you put this back in, don't be retarded like me. It has all the spines or whatever, but there's one that's really fat, and I was trying to force it in there without seeing that really fat one. So it only goes in one way. But it's on. It's perfect. 1350, 1410. I think they switched over to 1410 from like 02 and up. So if you end up doing the same swap, get a 1410 to a 1350 conversion U-joint, and you can reuse all your stock driveline. Hell yeah, excited. Also, Here is the where the headers are at. That's the passenger side. It's higher than the driver's side. I don't know why, but they're made like that. So this side, I'm gonna have to bring it out, bring it up, bring it over. And what's cool about everything spaced up, like the Driveline, is I could just swing it under here. I'm running all 3-inch, so it'll fit inside the frame, under the Driveline. I'll bring it over, 98 over, and then run both duals. I think I'm gonna run an X pipe somewhere right here, and then come out of the X pipe. I'll probably hang the mufflers somewhere right here behind the cab. And I don't think there's a way for me to run it all the way to the back. I would like to, but I got all my air suspension and all that shit over there, so I probably won't. So I'll probably just dump it here, or I don't know, bring it out the side, kind of like Matt's. But we'll figure that out when we get there. For now, we got this done. Let's get it back down and keep moving on. All right, y'all. I mocked up the harness. And while the BP automotive harness is really nice, everything is fucking long. So it doesn't matter what you put in the notes, and they're gonna send you some, I guess, their usual stuff. But this harness is actually supposed to go all the way inside. But as you can see, I just looped it because everything that sends out a signal will hook up to the harness that goes here. So we're gonna be ghetto. We're gonna leave it looped, and I'm gonna mount, once I get the tub fabricated for the fender, I'm gonna mount the ECM on the fender here. And then all these wires, well, like these, this is like brake switch and all that, which, like the tach, the brake switch, speedometer, the tap shift, I'm gonna run inside because I got a plan for that. The mill light, I'm running all that through here. See, these wires go to the trailer brake controller. So I'm gonna pass everything through here, and then the, where is it at? This one, which is like 8 feet long, is the throttle pedal. So I'm gonna run it also through here. Anyway, we got the wiring mocked up. I was gonna get an aftermarket fuel pressure regulator, but I'm broke and I'm lazy. So I'm gonna end up running the Corvette fuel filter directly off the fuel rail, and then I'll just run the return and the feed from the pump and just plug it in there. And I need to buy the intake manifold gasket so I can bolt this sucker down. This one will run a MAF. So I have the mass airflow connector here. I need to call them and see what the deal is with the AC pressure transducer. If it absolutely needs it, I think I'll run it off the air dryer. If it doesn't, then I'll tip it back, because I'm gonna run, it's pretty much a standalone AC, since the truck harness has the trigger wires for the air conditioner. So I'm gonna more or less lay this out where it's gonna go, and then I'll start working on the actual truck harness with all the inputs and outputs. And I'll just give this, enough room to move around, pretty much to where I can move it around a little bit once I get the front tubs fabbed up and figure out where that's gonna go. Which, like all the ignition wires or the power wires, these are fan signals. It's a fan signal. I think it's a power feed as well. But all this stuff is outputs. This is your switched ignition, which I'm just gonna splice it into the stock fuse box, as well as the fuel pump. All these outputs are fused and relayed, but I'm just gonna feed them into the trigger that goes from here to the stock harness. All right, we got this thing back up in the air. And when I dropped it back down, it was not going in a park. It rolled back and forth like it was stuck in a gear. So I found out this thing was, because mine doesn't have a shift linkage, it has a cable. So where it was buttoned up before, it was holding it back. So on the column, if you put it up in park, it was actually only going to reverse. So I drilled a couple holes about a 1/2 inch over. That way it moves the cable forward more. Because remember, everything we have now is forward. So I moved this about a 1/2 inch over, and now, see, that's park, reverse, reverse, neutral. It won't let me, anyway, that's park. So now that we're in park, we can pop that sucker back in and we're good. See, it ain't going nowhere. The way it was before, it would only go to, let me pop this up. It would go to reverse right there, which made you think it was in park on the column, but see, it was still spin. So we put it back in park. Put it back in park. That motherfucker ain't going nowhere. So that's all I got time for today, guys. It's getting pretty late. I'm starving. It's Friday night. I got some beer to drink. So I think tomorrow we'll try to tackle some of that wiring, get everything cleaned up. I still gotta hook up fuel lines, but that's no biggie. I got a plan for that. And should be fairly cheap, fairly easy. Once we get fuel lines, I need to run some power wire from the battery all the way up here to the fuse block. And I'll probably follow this wiring, which is the one that goes to like tail lights and the fuel pump and all that. But we'll leave that for tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out, Beaners. Peace.